On today's episode of Scamfish presented by SocialCatfish.com, a woman named Charlotte from Orlando, Florida will open up about her online relationship with a man named Mike. The two met on the dating app Match.com, and at one point, Charlotte had begun to plan their wedding. She had the wedding planning completely finished, but Mike never showed up. This is a crazy story, so make sure you watch until the end. Real quick, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your comment and like could help stop someone from being scammed. Let's get into it.
I am Charlotte, and I'm in my early 50s, although age is just a number. I don't feel like it at all. I guess I would refer to myself as a serial monogamist, where I tend to have very long relationships, I guess gaps in between, promised engagement rings and that sort of thing, and it falls apart and we move on. So I had been on Match.com for maybe a month or so. This very interesting guy named Mike started contacting me. He was persistent and very attractive. His communication was very almost poetic, and we hit it off. He was an engineer. He's Swedish and got his master's in London. So he was very kind of swarthy, has brown hair and brown eyes and dimples, just a very kind expression in his eyes when he smiles. He liked to eat seafood. He cooked. He was looking forward to cooking together. He drove a Range Rover. It sounds bizarre now looking back because I had never met him in person, but he knew me. He swept me off my feet. We were just meant to be. So when we first started talking, he was local. He lived in Orlando, but shortly he had a job up in New York and said, "Don't be mad at me, but I have a job that I really need to take, and it's in Canada, and it's going to be for 6 weeks." And I was like, "Why would I be mad at you? Of course, you go take a job, no problem." And that 6 weeks turned into 6 months. He was professing his love for me within a week. I was definitely slower, and I even at one point asked him to slow down. He called me my woman and started to sign his emails, "your husband." We were talking about marriage, I would say within 5 or 6 weeks. My mom and I were out to brunch, and we were talking about, are you going to marry this guy? And it's like, yeah, we're actually talking about getting married in May. So Mom and I went to the bridal store, and I got a wedding dress. And every time I would talk to him on the phone, I would give him updates on, what I had done for wedding planning that day. And he loved it. He was all on board, and are you free? May 27th was the date we had figured on. And a friend of mine at work is a pastor, and so he was going to do the ceremony, chiming in with his opinions and what colors he would prefer, and we were going to have a peacock color palette. Who the wedding party would be would tell me, what a great organizer I was and what a good job I was doing, and he couldn't wait to say the I do's and be with me. Mom and I found a dress at the very first store. I ordered invitations on Etsy. I had a cake tasting lined up for when he came home, which was going to be any day now. Shortly after I had started addressing the wedding invitations, all of this kind of came crashing down. My best friend at the time was really suspicious because he had kept postponing when he was coming home. And she did a reverse image search on him and said she found his picture on quite a few different dating websites with different names. I didn't want to hear it. I told her, in fact, I was going to wait and hear his explanation, and I completely believed that he loved me, and I couldn't find anything about him online. I was in charge of while he was in Canada because he didn't have any internet access on the rig. And so I would log into his bank account and pay his bills for him. Huge, huge amounts of money. And it was, it's kind of fun. And he would laugh at me that I was kind of agog at the amounts. He said, you won't think that that's a lot of money once you get used to it. Once we're married, it's just going to be commonplace for you. The job in Canada was going to pay 14 million. So by the time he paid his workers, he was going to bring home 12 million. And, we would be comfortable, and that wasn't his last job. And I know he asked me for gift cards. He would say, $600. And I would say, babe, I don't have $600 to send you. It wasn't long before he needed a huge sum. Well, to me, it was a huge sum because a part had broken on the rig since he was the contractor. He was responsible for replacing it. So he asked me for, I think he started with $100,000. And I said, that's 2 years' salary for me. Can you ask your dad for it? No, I'm not going to ask my dad for $100,000. It's not going to happen. I took a home equity loan out on my house. And even the guy at the bank was saying, well, that's so weird that the company, the oil rig company, wouldn't pay for this broken part. And I said, I know, but he keeps telling me I don't understand how the business works and that he's the one in charge of replacing the part, and he really needs the money so he can come home. I signed it for, it was something crazy like 6 weeks at the particular interest rate. And, it was no problem. He would definitely be home by then and pay it all back. So I had a copy of his passport. My mom asked me for it, and she sent it to my cousin who works in the FBI. He confirmed that the passport was bogus. My mom came to me in tears. She did not want to be the one to break my heart. My dad was excited that he was going to have a son-in-law. Both my parents were crazy about the idea. The $40,000 I had sent to a woman, and I remembered her name. So I looked her up and actually found her, and I messaged her and said, are you the Michelle that knows Mike? And she said, oh my gosh, yeah. She was told I was an investor. I was told that she was a broker for the part on the rig. So that's why I sent the money to her. By that point, I said, you send me my money back. And she had already forwarded it on because that's where the part was being manufactured. After the wedding got called off and we started up again, he, at that point, was in Cape Town. The part was taking too long to get to Canada, so he went himself to get it. He constantly needed money to buy more electricity because you paid for it by the day, apparently. He needed money for food. He'd go out and get day work down at the docks. He would go and get jobs that would last a day or two, and he would make the money stretch. When I was tapped out, my accounts were tapped out. He started to have business associates who owed him for previous jobs send me checks. He referred to me as his wife, and they would send checks to me, which I deposited, and then I would take a cash advance on my credit card to send to him. And then, lo and behold, the check would bounce. I got kicked out of or asked to leave a couple different banks. This happened more than once. The checks would bounce. Before they would bounce, I had taken the money out already and sent it to him. And so I'm left holding the bag. I would beg him, stop using me this way. Don't use my account anymore. Find some other way to do this. I'm sorry, babe, that you're the only one I have. Because I had so many monthly payments I had to pay these creditors. I would cry on the phone to him, and I can't take anymore. I was working 3 side jobs aside from my full-time teaching job just to keep my head above water. I stole a gallon of milk. That's how desperate I was. And that still really, really bothers me. I have one voicemail from him that I just can't delete.
Sweet love, how are you doing, babe? I just want to hear your voice this morning and know how you're doing. Okay? Try text me so I can call you before you get to work. Alright, baby. I love you. Take care, love. Take care. I love you. Bye.
And that's the only voicemail he ever left me. But I can't bring myself to delete it. He was supposed to land in Orlando March 5th. And I knew his itinerary because I had bought the ticket. And nothing. No messages from him. And I kept looking at the clock and calculating what time it was in Germany. And he wasn't answering my texts. And I called the airport in Cape Town. And they said he never checked in for the flight. 3 weeks after that, I was at school late, and they called me over the intercom. Are you still on campus? I said, yeah, I'm still here. To Homeland Security, the Secret Service, were at the school looking for me. So I went down and said, okay, hi. Just completely floored. And they said, what can you tell us about Mike Manka? The agents are very kind gentlemen, and they've stayed in touch. And they have traced all of my money to Africa. They have found 46 victims of this particular ring of guys. I have sent the names that I have on file that I sent money to, their Bitcoin accounts and that sort of thing.
After our team learned everything about Charlotte's story, we wanted to vet and find this man in the photos. We did a reverse image search on our site, socialcatfish.com, and got results in minutes. If you're looking to find the identity of your online lover, you can start with the tools on our site, socialcatfish.com. You can click this YouTube card or click the link in our bio. Just hitting like, comment, and subscribe helps us build more tools out for you to use in the future. Next, we sat down with Charlotte for the first time. Stick around until the end. Charlotte will break down all the steps she took to get ready for her wedding with Mike.
So Charlotte, I wanted to start with the beginning here of yours and Mike's relationship. So it seems like you guys were falling in love fast and sending large amounts of money. Sounds like others around you were suspicious. Did you have any suspicions about Mike?
Not from the start. He did push the love issue pretty early. I remember having a fight on the phone with him because he wanted me to commit and say that I loved him before I was ready. I wasn't moving any of my money. I was sending his money to pay his bills while he was unable to get to the internet. So I thought it was interesting, but not suspicious. In fact, I told my dad it was kind of like I was Miss Moneypenny and it was James Bond. It was so strange to be sending such huge amounts of money.
He went off and he got a job while you were setting this wedding up, right?
Yes, we scouted some venues. Mom and I went out while I was on spring break and we found a dress. I put it on and I just burst into tears because it was perfect. I have friends who are DJs and photographers and a minister. So I had them all lined up. So then I got the invitations and I compiled my guest list. Let's see, I got my bridesmaids' gifts embroidered. I got his groom's gift. We had a cake tasting lined up for, I think it was the day after he got off the plane. I had sent him houses that were on the market. Even I thought about this since the last time we talked. He asked me to go take a walkthrough on one that was on the market that he really liked and send him pictures. I ended up selling my dress, just a fraction of what we had paid for it, but so we recouped a little bit that way.
So after you found out that his passport came back as a bogus passport, what kept you holding on to Mike?
He could explain everything to me. He wanted to explain it face to face when he got home. That was always just wait till I get home. Wait till I get home. I'll tell you everything.
What do you think when you saw the real man's profile?
You know, it was proof. I hadn't seen the other pictures when my friend said that she had found him online. I didn't see that. So that wasn't as tangible to me as seeing this other profile. So I looked up the real guy, and I don't find him nearly as attractive as I did with Mike.
Actually, Charlotte, where does this leave you with dating online?
I don't know. How can I believe them anymore? I would definitely look everybody up on Social Catfish, because I have found even doing a reverse image on my own doesn't get me any results. It was only through your website, and I thank God I had found it.
Do you have any advice for someone that's going through something very similar to your situation with Mike?
I would listen to the people who love you. We've always said, my friends and I've always said, if everybody who's important to you is telling you one thing and you think another, why are you listening to yourself instead of everybody who wants what's best for you? If 10 other voices are telling you no, listen to them.
Thanks for watching another episode of Scamfish presented by SocialCatfish.com. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.
Scams come in so many different forms. If you have been a victim of any of the scams below, please email us at sharemystory@socialcatfish.com. We'll get to the bottom of it with help from our Social Catfish team. By sharing your story with our YouTube audience, we can educate, spread awareness, and maybe someday we can put an end to these scams.